What would you do if one day you woke up and there was no one else at home? Not because they went away on a trip, not because they're at work, but because little by little, without you noticing, life quietly did its work and left you there, all alone. A steaming cup of coffee for one, the table set with a single place, the sofa empty, the phone silent. Maybe you once dreamed of having a little peace, of not having to be on call for everyone else all the time. But now that silence has settled in, you realize something. Silence isn't always rest. Sometimes it's an echo of everything that was and is no more. Loneliness doesn't arrive all at once. It doesn't knock on the door with force. It seeps in through the cracks. It settles into the corners once filled by voices. First you stop hearing footsteps, then laughter, next the arguments, and finally even the good mornings disappear. And you, who cared, who gave, who waited, now stand before the mirror wondering, and now what? What do I do with these long days? What's the point of getting up, cooking, waiting? I want to tell you something important. You are not alone in this, because there are thousands, millions of older people around the world going through the same thing, who once dreamed of retirement, of rest, of having time, but who were never told what it would be like to live that time in solitude. This video is not here to make you sad. It's not so you'll feel sorry for yourself. It's so you can find, bit by bit, another way to live. A gentler way, a more dignified way, a way that's truly yours. Because even if there aren't as many out there anymore, you are still here, and that matters. Stay with me until the end, because what we're going to talk about today could change your mornings, could give you back a reason, a light, a routine with meaning. And before we go on, I'd love to hear from you. How old are you? Which country, which city are you listening from? Leave it in the comments, because even if we can't see each other, this community is right here with you. Accepting loneliness. Stop fighting it. The hardest part of loneliness isn't being alone. It's fighting that feeling. It's waking up each morning and asking yourself, why don't they look for me anymore? Why don't they need me anymore? What did I do wrong for it all to end like this? But let me tell you something important. You did nothing wrong. Life changes. Phases end. And what hurts the most isn't the silence. It's the resistance to it. Fighting loneliness causes more suffering than loneliness itself. It's like being in the middle of a lake, thrashing around desperately to keep from sinking, without realizing that if you just stopped fighting, you could float. Accepting isn't giving up. Accepting isn't resigning yourself. Accepting is looking around, seeing the quiet, and instead of battling it, choosing to inhabit it, turning it into a space of calm, a refuge, a corner where you can meet yourself again. Let me tell you Martha's story. A 78-year-old woman. Every morning she sat by the phone, made herself a coffee, placed her chair in the same spot, and waited. She waited for it to ring. She waited for her children to have a moment. She waited for a grandchild to remember. And each night, with that same cold coffee on the table, she went to bed feeling emptier than the day before. Until one day, Martha did something simple. She went to the neighborhood stationery store and bought a hardcover notebook. And that day, instead of waiting by the phone, she wrote. She wrote how she felt. She wrote what she remembered. She wrote what hurt, what she was grateful for, what she had never dared to say out loud. And little by little, without noticing it, Martha stopped waiting and began to listen to herself. You don't need grand gestures to start accepting your loneliness. You just need rituals, small daily acts that remind you you're still here. You can write like Martha. You can speak aloud to yourself. Say good morning in the mirror. You can play a song that brings back a memory and simply remember it. Not to suffer, but to honor it. Silence can be a prison, or it can be a home. and you decide whether to fill it with laments or with presence. Maybe for years you were mother, father, grandmother, grandfather, partner, and now you feel you don't know who you are without others. But here's a phrase for you, one that can guide you like a compass. First you accept yourself, and then you can rebuild yourself. Because yes, you still can. And there is still so much inside you that deserves to be heard, cared for, lived. Now, if you identify with this part, leave me a comment with one word: I'm starting. Because sometimes it only takes a first step to begin embracing this new stage with less pain and more dignity. Reconnecting with yourself, rediscovering your own company. One of the hardest things as we grow older is learning to live with who we really are. For decades we lived for others, for our children, for our partner, for work, commitments, routines. We defined ourselves by others. I am so-and-so's wife, the father of, the one who cares for. And one day, when the house empties, when calls come less frequently, when nobody needs you for anything urgent, you realize you barely know who you are without them. But here comes something powerful. You still have time to find yourself again. Not who you were, but who you still can be. Coming back to yourself isn't a solitary task. It's a profound act of love. Take Mr. George, for example. He was widowed at 73. For months he devoted himself to surviving, to doing the bare minimum. He ate just enough, slept poorly, spoke to almost no one. Until one afternoon, while cleaning out a closet, he found his old harmonica. One he hadn't played since he was young, when he used to sit in the plaza and play for his wife. He cleaned it, held it in trembling hands, and blew into it. It didn't sound perfect, but it sounded. And with that first note, a part of him he thought lost returned. Since then, every afternoon, Mr. George plays. Not for anyone else, but for himself. How long has it been since you did something just for you? Reconnecting with yourself also means remembering what you love, what does you good. And that starts with small things. Walking alone, but with purpose. Not like someone wandering aimlessly, but like someone gifting themselves a walk to breathe, to look at the sky, to feel alive. Cooking something special for you. Not because you have guests, not for a birthday, but because you deserve to sit before a plate that makes you smile. Building a routine you enjoy, waking up to soft music, preparing coffee calmly, reading for a while in the sun. Your time is still valuable. And now, it's solely yours. And there's something more intimate, learning to speak to yourself with love. Yes, to you. To that being who's accompanied you through every stage, on both sunny and dark days. That inner voice that sometimes criticizes, demands, reminds you of what you can no longer do. That voice can also transform. It can say, "You did well today. How wonderful that you're still here. Thank you for making it through another day." Because here's a truth you may never have been told. You are the only person you will spend the rest of your life with. Treat yourself like your best friend. Speak to yourself with the same tenderness you would to someone you love. Don't scold yourself for feeling lonely. Embrace yourself for carrying on. And if today you're listening and think it's too late, let me tell you, it's never too late to find yourself again. Life doesn't end when others leave. Sometimes, it truly begins right then. If this part of the video touched your heart, share in the comments. Is there something you used to enjoy and would like to do again just for yourself? And now, let's continue. Because loneliness, when lived with dignity, can also turn into creativity, into legacy, into connection. And that's what we'll talk about next. Connecting with the world in new ways. One of loneliness's deepest wounds isn't the absence of people. It's the belief that no more connections are possible. Many older adults silently feel their closest friendships are behind them, that there's no point in opening up again, that nobody would understand their stories, their pains, their worldview. And yet, Every day, somewhere in the world, someone like you feels lonely and is waiting for a conversation that awakens them, a look that reminds them they're still valuable. It's not about replacing those who are gone. That's impossible. The love that's gone can't be substituted, only honored. But we can open a new, distinct space, a space where people come not to fill a lost spot, but to bring something unexpected. Alice was 82 when, at her granddaughter's insistence, she learned to use YouTube. She loved gardening videos. One day she commented, "I always struggle to keep my orchids alive. If anyone has advice, I'd be very grateful." A man of 79 replied. His name was Frank. He told her about light, about watering, about not moving the pot too much. Alice answered gratefully, and he wrote back again. That's how an unexpected friendship began. They never met, but they keep each other company by letter and occasional video call. They talk about plants and life. That's the power of opening new doors. And you, who are watching, you can do it too. Where? Today there are more options than ever. Reading groups in your community, painting, writing, yoga workshops for seniors, online groups on social media dedicated to whatever interests you, cooking, history, music, crafts, religion, whatever makes you feel alive. You don't need to be an expert. You just need to be willing to share who you are. You might think, "No, I'm too old for this." But let me tell you, it's never too late to have a new first conversation. Shame is natural. Apathy too. Sometimes the body doesn't want to move, and neither does the spirit. But there's something that can overcome inertia. Curiosity. That little spark that asks, what if there's still someone out there, worth knowing? Don't look to fill a void. Look to plant a new story. Even if it doesn't bloom at once. Even if it only lasts a moment. Because sometimes one single conversation, one single person who listens, can change your whole week. And if today you don't have the strength to go out, start from home. Write a comment, like Alice did. Reply to someone. Join a conversation. Share something of yourself. Connection doesn't always knock on the door. Sometimes we create it when we have the courage to say, "Here I am. I still have something to give." If you relate to this, tell us below. Would you like to find a community where you can be yourself? And now, let's move on. Because connecting with others also leads to something deeper. Giving meaning. Turning loneliness into legacy. And that's what we'll discuss in the next part. Giving new purpose to your day-to-day. Loneliness grows heavier when we feel we're no longer needed, when children no longer ask questions, when the phone doesn't ring, when there's no boss expecting results, nor a partner looking at us upon waking. Then time loses its shape. Days blend into nights, and a silent, persistent question takes hold. Why get up today? But here's a powerful truth you may not have heard clearly. You can still be useful. You still have something to give, even if you no longer work, even if nobody visits. Because usefulness doesn't come from what the world expects of you. It comes from what you choose to offer. Take Raymond, for example. He was 78, widowed, childless, living in a small town. One day he read in the newspaper that a rural school had no library. Something inside him lit up. He remembered the stories his mother used to tell him as a child. He remembered summers spent inventing tales with his siblings in the shade. And he decided to act. He used his phone to record himself telling one of those stories and emailed it to the school. He didn't expect a reply, but one came. The teachers sent him a recording. The children listened to your story aloud and then wanted to invent one of their own. Raymond was never alone again. Every week he recorded a new story, and small voices waited for him on the other end. That's the power of purpose. It turns silence into echo. It turns emptiness into offering. And you, what could you do today? Here are some practical, small but profound ideas. Volunteer locally. Hospitals, soup kitchens, libraries. Your presence can be companionship for others. Share your wisdom. Know how to knit, cook, do bookkeeping? You can teach, record videos, write a blog. Send letters or voice notes to your grandchildren. Even if you can't see them, even if they're far away. Leave a legacy of words, stories, and your voice. Help a neighbor. Someone nearby might need you to read them a book, accompany them to the doctor, or water their plants. And if you can't leave the house, remember, technology can be a bridge. A call, a message, a voice note, a comment. All of these can reach hearts beyond your walls. When you find a reason to get up, getting out of bed hurts a little less. Because the body, when it has a why, endures the how more easily. And that why doesn't need to be grand. You don't have to change the world. You just need to touch one life, even your own. Purpose is not a distant goal. It's a daily decision. It's saying, today I will give something, even if it's a kind word, even if it's a smile. If you ever thought you were no longer useful, today is the moment to prove yourself you are. And now, let's turn to something just as important, caring for your health, your environment, and your routines, so that your body and mind remain allies on this journey. Because when the soul rises, the body must also support it. Part 6. Caring for your emotional and mental health in solitude. There are wounds that don't bleed, that aren't visible, that don't heal with casts or bandages. They're wounds of the soul, of the spirit, of the heart. And they often appear when loneliness lasts longer than one ever imagined. Because being alone doesn't always hurt, but being alone too long, without speaking, without sharing, without being heard, can slowly dim your inner light. What begins as a tranquil day can become weeks without meaning. And that's when we must stay alert, because prolonged isolation isn't just loneliness. It can be the prelude to depression. And depression in old age is silent. It doesn't always cry. It doesn't always show. Sometimes it disguises itself with phrases like, "What's the point anymore? I don't feel like doing anything. I'm tired of it all. I don't want to bother anyone." And its signals may seem small, but they're important. You stop taking care of yourself. You eat less, or simply stop eating. You abandon routines that used to be yours. You don't want to open the windows. You don't answer the phone, even when you hear it ring. Does this sound familiar? You are not alone. And most importantly, you don't have to stay that way. Your emotional health is as valuable as your physical health. And there are things you can do, starting today, to care for yourself better. Breathe mindfully. Close your eyes. Inhale silently. Count to 4. Then exhale slowly. Do it 5 times. Your nervous system will thank you. Do a guided meditation. There are thousands, free, online. You just need headphones and a few minutes. You don't have to know how to meditate. Just let yourself be guided. Write letters you won't send, to whoever let you down, to whoever you miss, to yourself. Pour your heart onto paper, no filters. The heart, when unburdened, finds relief. Play music that uplifts you, not drags you down. Songs that remind you you're alive, that there's still beauty, that you can move, even if only in spirit. And if you feel that isn't enough, ask for help. Without guilt, without shame, without fear. Seeing a doctor isn't a sign of weakness. It's an act of self-love. Talking to a psychologist isn't for crazy people. It's for the brave who dare to say, "I need someone to listen to me." Call that relative, that friend, that neighbor. Tell them the truth, even if it hurts a bit. "I'm not okay. Can I talk to you for a while?" Because the soul also breaks in silence, and sometimes all it needs to begin healing is someone to hear its cracks. Don't wait until you're worse. Don't wait for the world to notice. Do it for yourself. Do it now, because you still have a path ahead, and you deserve to walk it with dignity, relief, and hope. And now that we've spoken of the soul, let's turn to the body, because it too needs to be cared for, listened to, treated kindly, even when you're alone. Building your refuge, transforming your house into a home for you. There are houses that are full, yet empty, and there are others that are silent, yet embrace. It all depends on how you inhabit them, how you care for them, what you allow to flourish within their walls. When loneliness settles in, the house can become an echo, a cold place, filled with memories, or worse, with routines that no longer excite. But it can also be a refuge, a sanctuary, a nest, all your own. The key lies in this understanding. You don't need someone else to celebrate your existence. You deserve your own attention too. And how do you start? With simple things, small gestures that seem insignificant, but send a direct message to your soul. I'm here for myself. Play soft music in the mornings. Let your house sound like life, even if it's only you. Open the curtains. Let natural light in. Light is medicine for the spirit. Display photos that make you smile, not cry, that remind you of beautiful moments. Use scents you love. Incense, oils, a lavender candle, freshly brewed coffee, whatever brings you comfort. And when you sit down to eat, even if you're alone, serve your meal on a nice plate. Use a cloth napkin. Place a flower, even if it's just a small sprig you picked on your walk, because you're not doing it for show. You're doing it because you also deserve to feel your presence matters. I remember meeting Anne by mail. She was 79, widowed for over a decade, her children living far away. For years, she told me, she drank her coffee from an old chipped mug with no ceremony. Until one day she looked in the mirror and thought, why don't I do for myself what I used to do when someone visited? From that afternoon on, she prepared a little tray with care. She placed a cookie, a floral napkin, and sometimes a small candle. She sat by the window and said, this is me, visiting myself. And everything changed. Not because it banished her loneliness, but because she learned to be a gracious host to her own life. If there's a corner you love, make it yours again. Tidy it up, decorate it, move something around, add a plant, a cushion, a soft lamp. Make that spot hold you like an embrace when you sit there. You don't need grand luxuries, just small gestures that tell you without words, this place matters, because you are here. Your home can be a mirror, a reflection of how you feel. And if you choose, it can become the medicine that soothes your weary soul. Because at this stage of life, it's not about having a house full of people. It's about having a space full of you, of your essence, of your calm, of your self-love. And from that refuge, we'll move on to what we'll talk about in the next part. How to open the door to small daily joys, those we sometimes forget, but that are still waiting for you. Redefining love. It's not only found in others. There's an idea that gets repeated too often, and it hurts more than it helps. That you only love if there's someone to hug. That love always lies outside, in others, in what's already gone. But love doesn't vanish when someone leaves. It doesn't go out because nobody calls you. It doesn't die if there's no hand to hold yours. Sometimes love simply changes shape. It becomes quieter, more internal, more intimate. Loving isn't always about having someone nearby. Sometimes it's about caring for your memories with tenderness, not with pain, nor with anger, but with gratitude. That person who's gone, that child who no longer calls, that partner who left, those friends life scattered, they're not signs that love ended. They're part of the love that formed you, that accompanied you, that transformed you. And now, love can also be the way you honor all you've lived. How? Start with the simplest thing. Write. Yes, write. A letter, a note, a random thought. Write to someone who's no longer here. Tell them how you're doing, what you still remember, what hurts, what you're grateful for. Write to yourself, to your 20-year-old self, to yourself of today, to the one who got up this morning without wanting to, yet still got up. Because loneliness isn't the absence of love. It's the opportunity to discover how much love still lives inside you. There are people who, upon finding themselves alone, think their capacity to love has run out, that there's nothing left to feel. But they're wrong. Love is also in how you tuck yourself in at night, in how you prepare your favorite meal, even if it's just for you, in how you remember with a smile, even if it moistens your eyes, in how you speak to yourself with compassion when the day weighs heavy. Redefining love is stopping waiting for it only from others and beginning to cultivate it from within. Is it easy? No, but it's possible. And when you succeed, you stop feeling empty and start feeling whole. Many older people spend their days waiting for a call, waiting for a visit, waiting for someone to look at them, hear them, remember them, waiting for the weekend, waiting for someone else's birthday, waiting for something or someone who might never return. And without realizing it, life slips away in that waiting. But here's something no one may have told you clearly. You're not on pause. You're not stopped. You're alive. And every day that passes counts. You're not waiting for anything. You're building a today worth living. Maybe the phone didn't ring today. But what if instead of waiting, you made yourself a coffee as if someone were coming? What if you wrote as if someone would read it? What if you walked as if the world still had something new to show you? Because it does. What happens when you stop waiting is that you start moving, deciding, breathing without asking permission, living not for what's missing, but for what's still possible. Breaking free from waiting isn't resignation. It's choosing to stop suffering over what doesn't arrive and beginning to enjoy what you already hold in your hands. It's stopping watching the clock, checking the phone, counting the days to see if someone needs you, and starting to ask yourself, what do I need today? A walk? A notebook? A song? A bit of sunlight on my face? When you stop living for maybe tomorrow and start building a today worth it, everything changes, even loneliness. Because loneliness, when lived from presence rather than absence, becomes home, becomes calm, becomes company. When you become your own best company, loneliness stops scaring you and begins to embrace you. Thank you for staying with me until the end. Now tell me in the comments, what part of this video resonated most with you? Where are you listening from, and how old are you? And if you feel this message could touch someone else's heart, don't hesitate to share it. Thank you for making it this far. Thank you for giving yourself this space, for listening to yourself, for allowing yourself to feel. This video wasn't just a list of tips, it was a hug made of words. For you, who maybe have felt alone for a long time without saying it out loud. If you identified with it, if something you heard touched your heart, I'd love to read you in the comments. Where are you watching from? How old are you? What part made you think, remember, or see things differently? Your story can accompany others too. And if you'd like to keep receiving content that speaks to you not as a number, but as a person with a soul, a past, and value, subscribe to the channel. Here we speak without fear, without masks, and with all our heart. See you in the next video. In the meantime, take care of yourself. And today, do something nice just for you. You deserve it.